I'm chronically optimistic. So my answer to your question will be colored by this optimism, and I shall say that we will make the payment, because I have no doubt that we will have an agreement by then with the institutions, our partners in Europe, the IMF, and so on and so forth.
But the payment of this money to the IMF in June is dependent, if I understand you correctly, on an agreement being reached.
An agreement has to be reached. This state cannot continue to make repayments to creditors as part of a loan agreement which was meant to be based on both our making the repayments and them making the disbursements.
Is it fair to say that Greece is just about out of money?
No, it isn't. Our state, as a result of huge sacrifices by the Greek people, has managed to live within its means.
I suppose I am inviting you to comment on one of your cabinet colleagues, but is it helpful when the Interior Minister does make those sort of comments, basically saying to the rest of the world, do a deal or there's no repayment? It's ratcheting up the pressure.
Not in the slightest. As I said, it is common knowledge. Everybody knows, amongst our partners and friends and institutions, that the Greek state cannot carry on making large payments to the IMF without an agreement. Mr. Voutsis, my colleague from the cabinet, the Interior Minister, simply repeated something I've said on a number of occasions. And what I've said is, just common sense. We have for 4 months been meeting our obligations to our creditors by extracting the last ounce of liquidity from our battered economy's fiber. We can't carry on doing this forever, and our creditors know that. So it's about time they come to the table and meet us, not half the way, but 1/4 of the way. We've already met them 3/4 of the way. It's about time the institutions, in particular the IMF, get their act together and come to an agreement with us.
Let's talk about that meeting on the way. I read a recent article that you've just written, and I hesitate to use the words red lines because it seems these days everybody has red lines all over the place. But in this particular case, it would appear your red line, if you like, is the pensions question. And if it becomes a choice, or you're dragooned into cutting pensions, you won't do it. Is that the sticking point, pensions?
It is a sticking point. It's not the sticking point. The sticking point is, as I said in an article that I wrote only this morning, which you may be referring to, the sticking point is austerity. Greece has had the greatest dose of austerity of any economy after the Second World War. We are the champions of fiscal consolidation and austerity, and the result is a collapsed economy. We can't have more of that, Richard. We need growth now.
The reality is, sir, the reality is you are now at a position where it appears the Eurogroup are determined to stare you down, and you are in a position which is very difficult, and having covered this from the beginning, I can't see how you get out of it without more pain.
Well, this country has experienced a great deal of pain. And if it is simply a matter of investing into a little bit more pain in order to get the gain, I would be happy to do it. The difference of opinion, it's not with my Eurozone member state colleagues, it's primarily with one or two of the institutions, actually one. The point I want to make, Richard, and I think every well-meaning member of our audience would agree, is whatever extra pain there is should be an investment into a turnaround.